Welcome back to Kanji Oboima show. I am really sorry for the long wait. Let's continue with 51 to 60. And yeah, let's start. Let's get straight into it. So we will be doing Kanji number 51. Number 51 looks like this. So let's see what that could mean. Now if you remember, this means mouth. And there are a few things we do with our mouths. The most common thing being what I am doing right now. So if I do what I am doing right now, you can imagine something like sound waves emanating from my mouth. So that I think you can visualize this particular kanji in what I have drawn in red right now. Basically that is what it is. For those of you who couldn't guess what I am trying to get at, this is what the kanji means. I am damn sure it will become clear once I give you the meaning. So the meaning is say, speech or word. So basically the hint was that there is a mouth which is talking, so there are sound waves coming from it, and that is what saying involves. Okay, let's quickly have a look at the on and kunyomi. Oops, I forgot to add the brackets. So the first is iu, the second is koto, and then there is a third reading that this kanji has, which is you, and this is mostly used during speech. Mostly used in speech, and by this I mean that you will usually not write this kanji as you will usually write it as you, or any variations, that is imashita, imasen deshita, itta, itte, all of those you will write it with e and not you. Okay, but just bear in mind that sometimes when speaking people will often say yutta or yutte. Okay, so that's all that is. Okay, now let's quickly have a look at the onyomis. So the first is gen, and the second is gon. Okay, let's quickly have a look at some words. Let's first see how we write the kunyomi reading with the kanji. This is how that is written. It is read as you, and it means to say, to speak, to state, or to call or refer to. Okay, so what do you call something? What do you call that? Are o nan to iimasu ka? Okay, so there again this you has shown up. So this you will be used in that sense. What do you call something? Or this is called an apple. Kore o ringo to iimasu. You know, that kind of example. Okay, let's quickly move on to the next one. I hope you remember this kanji. It was the 50th kanji just before this, and it is read as imawashi. Imawashi, which means expression, or turn of phrase. I hope you can see how turn of phrase may be slightly easier to remember because you're talking about talking and then turning something. So turn of phrase, and in case the phrase turn of phrase isn't clear, it is referring to the wording of something. So if you want to say, you know, this person has a beautiful way of phrasing things or a beautiful way of expressing themselves, then you can say that person has a very specific iimawashi. Okay, so I'll put this also in brackets in case it isn't clear. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, now in case it is not obvious, I will just point it out that here this is a separate kanji in itself and this is not the same as this. I hope you can notice the difference in size difference. And this size difference is very important to retain when you're going to write it by hand. If you're going to type it, this difference is going to be preserved in how the kanji character appears. But if you're going to write it by hand, like I have to here, you have to make sure to maintain the size difference so that you can understand whether a particular symbol is a component kanji or if it is an entire kanji. So here it will be useful for you to tell if it is this kanji which I have underlined right now in pink, or if it is sun and moon respectively. Okay, so here I am clarifying that it is not sun and moon respectively, it is the those are respectively the components of the composite. And this composite kanji we have already covered before. Just think back to it, you can see both the sun and the moon in the sky simultaneously, so it means it is either bright or clear. So here the meaning it takes up is clear, because bright speech doesn't really make a lot of sense, whereas clear speech does. So here the first thing you will see is how we read it. You will read it as genmei, and it means clear speech. So what is clear speech? An announcement or a declaration. Okay, I hope that's pretty simple. There's nothing more to it. Let's have a look at the next one. Okay, I hope you remember this kanji. The first means nothing or without, and the second means to say. So you're saying that there is nothing to say, or that there is no speech, or without any speech, in which case you will read it as move on, and the meaning is silence or muteness. So without speech basically. Okay, let's have a look at the last one. Now this word has a bunch of readings, the most standard being this, but you can also read it as ichigen or ichigon. You can also read it like that, but most of the time you will be able to read it like this, and this means a word. So a word of caution, a word of advice, that kind of usage. Okay, pretty simple. Let's move to the next one. This is kanji number 52, and this is what that kanji looks like. Okay, let me redo that slightly so as not to miscommunicate some things. Okay, it was an unsuccessful attempt, so this is the last time I'm going to try. Okay, not bad, fine. So let's see what this kanji could mean. Again, we start with the basic. This is our mouth, and obviously you can see that there is something coming out of our mouth. It's not sound waves, so then what else could it be? If it is not sound, then what else could it be? I hope some of you have already guessed the answer, but for those of you who have not been able to guess, I'll just mention it right now. The meaning is tongue. Okay, so there are two things that can come out of the mouth. One is sound and the other is the tongue. I don't know whether this will be acceptable to you or not, but there is a third thing that comes out of our mouth, and that is vomit, and this is not it. Okay, so don't get gross on me there. So an easy way to remember this kanji is with the phrase forked tongue, because the tongue here is not a simple straight line or like a simple rectangular block. It has things sticking onto it, so something like a forked tongue. So this is a forked tongue is what snakes are said to have. So yeah, hopefully it will make it easier to remember. Okay, so let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. The kunyomi is shita and the onyomi is zetsu. Zetsu. Let's have a look at some words. So this is read as zeppo, zeppo, which means a sharp tongue. Not a literal sharp tongue, but a figurative sharp tongue. Okay. Let's have a look at the next word. This will be read as josetsu, josetsu, which means garrulity or loquacity, which means the quality of being wordy. Of being wordy. By wordy you mean you use a lot of words to say something that can be said in fewer words. Okay, that's basically what it means. So let's have a look at the next word. I hope this will be fairly obvious. Okay, it should be fairly obvious. The first means tongue and the second means put out. This will be read as shitabodasu, and the meaning is to stick one's tongue out. To stick one's tongue out. Okay, let's have a look at one more. Now this will be read as shitaga motsureru. Okay, shitaga motsureru, and this means to get one's tongue twisted. To get or have one's tongue twisted. Okay, a small tip at this point, if you remember, we had previously done a kanji like, or rather a word like this, and at that time I said that this part is a kanji in and of itself. Similarly, even this motsureru part has a kanji of its own, but right now we have not seen it, and honestly even I don't know how to write it. I would assume that it is a fairly advanced kanji. So when we look at motsureru, we will redo this kanji and see how we can write the phrase shitaga motsureru. Okay, I think that covers this. Yeah, that covers this kanji. So we will move on to the next kanji. I think that is kanji number 53. And this is what that kanji looks like. Surprise, surprise. So here again, let's see how to remember this. So we already saw that this means to speak, and we know that this means tongue. And these two are each components which together form a larger kanji. So you use your tongue to say. So what are you talking about? When you use your tongue to say, I think it's pretty obvious. You're talking about the action of speech or speaking. Okay, so this kanji means to speak. Let's quickly have a look at the on and kunyomi. You have hanasu. So here I'll just write it down that this is a verb. Okay, and then you have hanashi, and this hanashi works like a noun. Okay, I'll tell you what I'm trying to convey with this. So let's have a look at some word. Oh, I apologize. Let's have a look at the onyomi before we proceed. So the onyomi is wa. That's it. Pretty simple. Only wa. Now let's start looking at some words. Let's have a look at some of the kunyomis first. So this is how you will write hanasu. Okay, and this is to speak or to tell. Okay, but when you see this kanji like so, without a su, that is, hold on, that is to say the su is missing. In that case it will function as a noun. So here it will act as a noun, and this means story or conversation. Okay, so when the su is missing, you can understand that you're talking about the noun form, and the noun form means story or conversation. So this is what I was trying to highlight. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. Okay, you will read this as Shuba, and let's try and have a look at the hint. So here, if you remember, this meant performer. I apologize. This means hand, and this here we just saw that it means speech. So you're talking about talking with your hands. So what kind of talking do you do with your hands? It is sign language. It is sign language. For those of you smart asses who said no, punches and kicks are the language of the hands, then you're wrong. You don't use that for speaking, especially not in Japan, where violence is really looked down upon a lot. So yes, violence is not the meaning of this. It means sign language, the language that speaking with your hands, basically. Okay, let's have a look at the next word, and this is unfortunately the meaning that I ended up starting to tell you, because I've recorded this session so many times now. This is my fourth or fifth time that I'm trying to record this session. So anyway, this is the next word. The second part is not all that clear, so let me just redo it. Yeah. Now here, if you remember, we know that when this hand symbol comes, sometimes we have to interpret the meaning as something which means a performer of an action. So here that meaning has to be taken, the ER meaning. So you're talking about the verb form, because you are having she, which is basically how su will transform when you're talking about the verb. So you have hanashite. This is how it is read. It is read as hanashite, and because you're talking about the performer of the action, it means the speaker or person speaking. Okay, the person speaking. Let's have a look at the next word. Okay, the next word, this will be read as hanashichu. Again, you're talking about the verb form, and it means in the middle of talking. In the middle of talking, or if we were to simplify it further, it means while talking. Okay, or you can also hear this phrase when it comes to telephone lines, and there the meaning is that the line is busy. The line is busy. That's what that means. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. This will be read as hanashiganai. Hanashiganai. And here again you're talking about the noun form, because there is no su or she after this, it's just the kanji on its own. So here you're talking about the noun form hanashiganai, which means nothing to say. Nothing to say. Okay, or there is nothing to talk about. Okay, hanashiganai. Now one important tip that I forgot to give you at the beginning was, what is the difference between this kanji. Okay, let me do it at the bottom, maybe it will be easier. What is the difference between this and this? So we said that this means say and this means speak. This meant also speech. So what really is the difference? Now that's a very interesting question. Please try and remember the difference like this. Now this kanji, which I will denote with 1 means say and 2 means tell. For those of us who are somewhat proficient in English and who will be able to distinguish between say and tell fairly easily, or who will be able to use say and tell respectively in the appropriate situation, I imagine the meaning is somewhat clear. You may not be able to explain it in words, you may not be able to articulate where the difference lies, but basically the difference between say and tell is the difference between iu and hanasu. So please bear that in mind. For those of us who are still not clear with the difference, you will become more proficient at the difference, and you will be able to identify how to use these two words once you start getting into writing, reading and speaking in Japanese. Until such time, this difference may be a little difficult to clarify. Okay, let's move on to the next kanji. This is kanji number 54. And this is how that looks. Okay. Now, personally, I would not recommend the mnemonic or the memory tip or the memory cue to remember what this kanji means, because it's a little tricky. But if it suits you better, then fine, go ahead with it. So let's see how to memorize this. I think previously I had told you that this kanji, the kanji for water, transforms into these 3 lines when it becomes a component grapheme. So basically this represents having something to do with water, having a connection to water, having a connection to water. Okay, so or liquids. And again, this is usually only, okay, not always. So let's say that this, in this situation at least, it holds this meaning. We already know that this second part means tongue, so we can say that this means a wet tongue. A wet tongue. Now a tongue will be wet only when it is alive, or rather only when we are alive, or only when it is being used, that is when it is active. So the meaning of this kanji is active, live, or lead one's life. Okay, active, live or lead one's life. Okay, now let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. Luckily for us, this does not have a kunyomi, it only has an onyomi, and the onyomi is katsu. Katsu. Okay. Now let's quickly have a look at the words. The first word okay, this will be read as katsuyo suru. Katsuyo suru. And this katsuyo suru means utilize. Utilize or apply. It also means conjugate or inflect, but this meaning is used in linguistics, so you need not bother. You can remember the first two meanings. Yeah, this is the perfect brush size, so you can remember this katsuyo suru, and from this you can, I mean, if you were to just see what is the use of katsuyo, katsuyo, this means utility or practical use. Okay, now let's have a look at the next word. I hope you remember these kanjis. This will be read as katsu kazan. And again, I hope you know what is the meaning of the second part, these two kanjis put together, because we've already covered this word. And if I say that the first kanji, the kanji we're doing right now, katsu, is active, then you should be able to guess what the meaning is. It means active volcano. You know, active fire mountain means an active volcano. I'm not going to modify that. Okay, let's have a look at the last word for now. This will be read as seikatsu. And again, if you remember, the first one also means live or be alive, and the second one means active, live or lead your life. So both have to do something with being alive or being active, and in this case it means livelihood. Just a second, let me rewrite that. It means livelihood. Okay, now let's have a look at the next kanji, kanji number 55, and this is what that kanji looks like. Now once again, this is one of those kanjis where using the memory aid or the mnemonic is not something I would prefer to do personally, but if it works for you, it works for you. Now let's imagine these two parts of the kanji as being roads. So what do you do on roads? You walk on roads, you run on roads, you drive your car on roads, or basically do something like that. So what are all of those actions accomplishing? They are accomplishing the act of going or proceeding to some point. So one of the meanings is to go or to proceed. Okay, so basically here the question would be, what do you do on roads, or what do you use roads for, right? And the answer is to go somewhere basically. Another meaning is act or perform. This meaning is unfortunately not all that obvious. And the third meaning is line. And when I say line, it means lines of print or lines of text or a row in Excel. Those are the kind of meanings. Okay, let's quickly have a look at the on and kunyomi. It has a bunch of kunyomi. The first being iku, then you have yuku, then you have iki, then you have yuki, then you have iki and yuki, then you have okonao. Now keep in mind these two and this. The other readings that this kanji takes up are somewhat derived or derivative of iku and yuku. So if you remember iku and yuku, you'll be able to memorize most of the others, or you'll be able to guess upon the others. That's not really a problem. Okay, just okonao is the other special reading of this, and just keep that in mind. Let's have a look at the onyomis. The onyomi is, I apologize, ko, gyo, and an. Again, the ko and go and gyo readings are more important than the other an reading. So far I have not come across the an reading, and most of the time neither will you. So let's have a look at some words now. The first, of course, is how do you write the kunyomi iku or yuku with the kanji itself. This is how you'll write that. And this can be read as either iku or yuku. It doesn't matter. The two readings can be used interchangeably. Okay, iku or yuku, which means to go, to proceed, or even to attend. Things like parties or events. That kind of meaning. Let's have a look at the next word. I'm sorry if this becomes a little bit confusing. Here the hand kanji will not take up the meaning of performer. Okay, you will read this as yukute, and this means one's way or ahead of one. It does not mean performer. That is to say, it does not mean the goer or anything like that. Okay, let's have a look at the other special kunyomi that we had. That's it. This is going to be read as okonao, and this means to act, to do, to perform, to practice or carry out, etc. Okay, let's have a look at another word. Now the first is speaking and the second is going. Okay, I think the meaning is pretty obvious. It means speech and conduct. What you say and what you do, basically. Okay, and it is read as Genko. Okay, speech and conduct, what you say and what you do. Let's have a look at the last meaning that we have. So, for example, if it shows up like this, you will read it as Nigyo. Nigyo. And it means 2 lines of text or of print or 2 rows of Excel. And again, after this Nigyo, if you have the me kanji, it means that particular line or row. That's the meaning it carries. And you will usually read it as something something me. Okay, that particular line. So here, because you're talking about Nigyo, it will be read as Nigyo me, and Nigyo me means the second line of text or the second row of Excel. Okay, I hope that's pretty obvious now. Let's have a look at the next kanji. This is kanji number 56, and this is a very beautiful kanji. I hope I can do it justice. I'll try that one more time. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, not bad. Okay, so let's try and memorize what this means. So if we have done some basic amount of biology and human anatomy and things like that, we will know that humans have a 4-chambered heart. A 4-chambered heart, and our heart is shaped somewhat like this. Okay, that's not a very, okay, hold on. Yeah, somewhat like that. That's the shape of our heart. And if we look at how this kanji is written, this kanji has 4 strokes. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So you can, and it's almost arranged in the same shape as that of the human heart. So basically that is the meaning of this kanji. You can remember it as a 4-chambered heart. It's pretty simple to remember that way. So the meaning is heart, and some associated meanings that come to mind, such as mind or center or core. These are all the things that this kanji can mean. Let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. The kunyomi is kokoro or gokoro, and the onyomi is shin. Okay, pretty simple. One tip which may become useful a bit later as we go along the course is that this kanji can appear on the side as this, or it can appear at the bottom with the same form, but you'll have something up here, something else on top here. You'll have some other kanji there. So this is how that kanji appears, and usually it means it has something to do with the mind or the heart or something like that. The meaning is something like that. Just like we saw in the case of the kanji for tongue, this means it has something to do with liquids. Similarly, you can understand that this has something to do with the heart of whatever it is that we are talking about. Not literally in the sense of a biological heart, but more like the core of the matter or the heart of the matter, that kind of thing. Okay, that's just a side note. It's not very useful right now. We'll look into it when we come across kanjis with those components. So okay, for now let's move on. Let's have a look at some words. This is the first word. It's not very pretty. Hold on, let me try writing that one more time. Okay, I seem to have erased one extra stroke as well. Okay, yeah, that's better. So this will be read as Honshin. If you remember, the first kanji can be read as origin, or it also means genuine, and here that is what it means. So you're talking about one's true heart or one's true mind, one's real intentions, okay, or one's conscience. One's conscience. Okay, honshin. Let's have a look at the next word. This will be read as jushin. Jushin. And if you remember, the first kanji means something in the middle or the center of, and the second kanji also has the meaning of center. So both of them talk about the center. The meaning is also center or middle. Okay, jushin. Let's have a look at another word. Now this kanji has two readings. The first is, oops, the first is shinju, shinju, which means again heart, mind, or true motives. And the second reading of the same kanji is shinju. Okay, and shinju means double suicide or lover's suicide. So it is important to bear in mind how the second part is pronounced, whether with chu or ju, and based on that the meaning is going to change. Okay, let's have a look at the last word for this kanji for now. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, you will read this as kokoro yuku made, which means to one's heart's content. To one's heart's content, which means as much as one likes. Okay, okay, so let's have a look at the next kanji now. This is kanji number 57. This is what that kanji looks like. Again, it's not exactly very properly drawn. Okay, yeah. So now let's try and memorize what this kanji can be. So if you remember, this kanji is your eyes, and this is basically supposed to be your eye but flipped over vertically, 90 degrees. You flip it over by 90 degrees. This is similarly the shape of the human ear. It's not a very good kanji. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So this is supposed to be the human ear, and you can almost see it. Like, you can almost see it. This is generally how the human ear is shaped, right? This is your this hanging part is supposed to be your ear lobe, and the rest of it is the rest of the ear. Okay, so the meaning is ear. Okay, the kunyomi is mimi, and the onyomi is ji. The onyomi is ji. Then let's quickly have a look at some words for this. eyes and ears. Pretty obviously the meaning is eyes and ears. Another less obvious meaning is attention. And again, how you can memorize that is, what do you do with your eyes and ears? You see with your eyes and you listen with your ears, which basically means you're focused or you're attentive or you're paying attention. Okay? And this will be read as Jimoku. Jimoku. Okay? Let's have a look at the next word. Oops. I accidentally drew I. This will be read as Chuji, which means inner ear. Obviously, you're talking about inside and ear. What's inside the ear? It's the inner ear. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. This will be read as Mimikaki, which means ear pick. Please bear in mind, it's not a good habit to pick your ears. The next word is Mimitabu, which means ear lobe. So again, this ear lobe, which is pretty easy to recognize from the kanji. Okay. Now let's do the next one, kanji number 58. Okay, and this is what that looks like. That's kanji number 58. It's a little, the mnemonic may be needlessly complicated when compared to the meaning of the kanji, but I'll still mention it. Imagine this as someone crossing their hands together, one over the other, something like to make an X mark, because the kanji resembles the X mark, but just imagine that these are someone's hands doing it again. So this idea of one hand over the other hand implies the idea of duplication, because there are two hands, one on top of the other. So bear this duplication in mind, because that is pretty close to the meaning of this kanji, because the meaning of this kanji, one of them is again, so here it implies that duplication, or also. The second meaning, or in other words, maybe you will be able to associate it with the cross mark. I am not particularly sure if you can, but this cross mark or this or meaning, this is the other meaning which you will commonly come across. Let's quickly have a look at the on and kunyomi. Luckily, this kanji does not have an onyomi, it only has kunyomis. So the kunyomis are mata, mata, and matano. Okay. Now let's quickly have a look at some words. Okay, this will be read as mata ashta. Usually this will appear written like so, like I have mostly seen it appear written like so. So just bear that in mind. Mata ashta means see you tomorrow. It's a fairly easy phrase, one of the earliest phrases you will learn as a foreigner who's learning Japanese. See you tomorrow. Okay, because it's one of those easy phrases which people will remember even without knowing how to write anything in Japanese or say anything in Japanese. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. This will be read as Mata no hi, and this means another day. Another day. Okay, pretty simple. And the last is Mata wa. You will read this as wa. Okay, you will read this as wa. Mata wa. You'll come to understand why it is wa and not ha later on. It's a part of your grammar, so we will not cover it here. Just remember that you will read it as mata wa, and it means or in other words. Again, this mata wa may also appear as mata wa instead of having the kanji for mata show up. So that's something. Okay. Let's have a look at the next kanji. This is number 59, I think. Yeah, okay. This is how that kanji is written. Oops, hold on. Okay, this is how that kanji is written. Now, if you remember the two components, so we have, let us say, the ear of person A and the hand of person B. So person B is reaching his hand out to grab person A's ear. Okay, B is grabbing A's ear. Remember this as a kind of story. So here the action of trying to grab or the action of reaching out to take it is what's important, because this word means take. Okay, now let's have a look at the onen kunyomis. You have toru, tori, 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 or dori. Very similar readings, so you can remember just toru and tori, and that should be enough. The onyomi is shu. Okay, let me rewrite that. So yeah, shu. Okay, now let's have a look at some words. This you will read as shisui. So it means taking water, or what we properly call drawing water. Let's say from a well or a river, drawing water. Shusui. Let's have a look at the next word. Okay, this will be tori ireru. Tori ireru, which means take in, harvest, accept, or adopt. Literally it is take in. Okay, just the first one should be enough. All associated meanings also are very close to the meaning of taking in. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. Oops. Excuse me. Okay, this will be read as Tori ageru. This means to take or pick up, confiscate, okay, deliver a baby, so you're talking specifically about a baby, you cannot use this for delivering a package. Okay, accept, listen to, or to adopt, specifically a proposal. Okay, specifically a proposal. Let's have a look at the next one. This will be read as Toridasu. Toridasu. And obviously it means take and put out, so take out, get out, or pick up. Okay, those same meanings, Toridasu. Let's have a look at the last word for this. This will be read as Hidori. Hidori, which means schedule. Okay. Okay. Let's have a look at the 60th kanji, the last kanji for today. And this is how that is written. Okay. Actually, let me just rewrite that. Yeah. Okay. Now this is a little bit, the memory aid is a little bit tricky to remember, but just try and imagine this as this part as being a person's body. Okay, just try and remember this as body, and the last stroke that we draw, this stroke, basically imagine that last stroke as being a cane, so you can see that as a person with a cane. Okay, so the meanings that come here, the first one is body, the second one is one's person, kind of referring to the self, and the third here means social position. So if you remember this as the body, this cane represents that it is probably someone very old and therefore a respected member of society, or let's say a war veteran who lost their leg or who was injured and therefore needs a cane to walk, so that person also has some respect in society because of the service they've rendered, so something like that. That represents the social standing part of it. Okay, now let's have a look at the meanings, rather the readings. So the first is mi and the second is shin. So shin is onyomi, obviously. I hope you can tell which reading is which. Okay, by now I imagine you've gotten fairly used to it. So let's quickly have a look at some words. Now this will be read as shin shin because both kanjis are read as shin, and one means mind, the other means body, so this means mind and body. Pretty obvious, right? Now let's have a look at the next one. This will be read as shushin, shushin, and this means one's place of origin. If you have to think of it in crude terms, you can imagine that the body came out of that particular place, so place of origin, right? The body came out of its place of origin, which is to say whatever city you're from, right? Let's move on. This will be read as Minoue, Minoue, which means one's career, or one's fortune, Minoue. Then you have Mino Mawari, Mino Mawari, which means one's person, that is to say the self, your personal circle, or your personal belongings. Okay, the last word for today, this will be read as Shoshin. Now this does not mean small person, it means a humble person or of small social standing. That is to say, a humble position. Okay, which means you're lower in the hierarchy. That's basically what you're trying to get at. From a humble position, meaning from someone who is rather low in the hierarchy, whatever hierarchy is being referred to at that point. Okay, so that covers the 10 kanjis for this session. Hopefully I'll be able to upload this particular video and I will not face any more technical difficulties. I think I mentioned it briefly. This is the 4th or 5th time I've had to record these particular 10 kanjis, which is why sometimes I tend to get to the next word, because I have done this so many times in the same order. But hopefully I will never forget any of these kanjis ever in my life, including the readings and the stroke orders and everything else. That apart, I hope I will not face any more technical difficulties. I hope to be able to upload regularly from now on. So thanks for watching and see you next time.